Are you somebody that struggles with boundaries? And if you don't figure out something soon, you feel like some part of your life is going to fall apart, then you're going to want to watch this one till the end because, my friend, this is the one of the most important themes and topics that I hit with every person I have ever worked with. There's not one person I've met yet that I've supported in my 6-month containers that hasn't needed help around boundaries. It's one of the areas I've needed the most help and still work on the most in my day-to-day life and all my relationships. Because if we don't have strong boundaries, it's very difficult for us to thrive. Our energy gets depleted. When I think about, me and my entire life until about 10 years ago, my 30s, my energy was just flopping all over the place. I didn't know where to go, what to do, how to do it. And it was just a disaster. It led to a lot of disease in my body. Like in my 20s, I had health issues. I had blood cancer scare. I had depression, anxiety. I was medicated for it. I got divorced. I was in a job that I hated. It's like, and that was all a byproduct of me not having clear boundaries, my friend. So many of the problems and the issues that are happening in the people's lives that I end up supporting, a lot of it, developmental trauma, which is often boundary related, and boundaries, lack of boundaries, or an absolute fear of connection. The other version of, not understanding how boundaries work is it can create an experience of being walled off, disconnected from people in the world, from self. And then the other version is boundaryless, which is love addicted, which we'll go into later on. In this episode, we're going to talk about why do we even need to learn about boundaries? Why is this such a big topic? Why is this such a big problem for so many people? We're going to look at the big picture of that. Then we're going to go into what is a healthy boundary? What does that look like? Then we're going to go into how to deliver a boundary, how to foster boundaries in our day-to-day life, and then why you would even want to do that, how it's actually going to lead to a deeper felt sense of belonging, confidence, stability. And so you're going to want to hang around to listen to all these. So, why boundaries? Why do we have to learn about boundaries? When we take a big enough step back and look at our culture, we're going to see something pretty evident that culturally, globally, we're having issues around boundaries. This isn't an individual thing. This isn't something to, even just one generation. This is just riddled through our history. We have struggled with boundaries. That's why there's war. That's why there's sex trafficking happening in the world. That's why there's, abuse in relationships and drug addictions. It's like we're having a hard go. We've all come down into these bodies and this time of evolution, and it's been a little intense. Can you agree on that? It's been intense down here. And so it's something we're figuring out together. When we look at unity consciousness, this collective whole, we're having a hard time with it. We're even having a hard time having boundaries with Pachamama, the earth, and she's getting hurt. And so this is something we're figuring out. That's the big picture. Now, when we go down into the micro, as in your individual experience, we need to look at what actually develops a healthy boundary from the baby beginnings. See, we're a really vulnerable species. When we look at other animals, a lot of other animals, like deer or elephants, they just come out and within a few minutes, they kind of wobble around and then boom, they're on their feet, and their survival mechanism, the wisdom of how they've evolved, they're ready to run. They can run away from a tiger, lion, they're good to go. Us, not the case. We have to be held with so much tenderness and attunement for a very long time for us to develop as a human being. And in order to do that in a really good way, we need our mom and dad to be a really strong unit so that the overflow of their love can attune to us as an infant into a developing, human being. We need them to attune to us so that we can build out a strong biosphere. So another word I'll use around boundary is biosphere when we're talking about this one entity, the I. If mom and dad do a really good job of being in love and connection and coherence and working through challenging times together, it doesn't mean that it's all going to be perfect and amazing. Like, they're going to still fight and all the things, but they've got a strong sense of the we. Then that overflow will really ensure that a lot of your needs are met. And then if your needs are met and when you're hungry, they notice and they feed you. And when you have, you fall and you hurt yourself and you've got big feelings and they attune and they come down to your level and they hold you in that and they comfort you and mama puts you on her skin and skin to skin and gives you milk, da, 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 and you keep going and going and going and you get lots of like guidance and, are taught the banks and life and how to stay safe but to be welcomed into your power, as an adult, you're going to have inner experiences of, I'm enough. You won't allow people to treat you poorly. You will have strength and confidence. You will have this energy that radiates out to the world that says, respect me, want and desire what I have to offer, but respect me in the exchange. And if I don't want to give it, that's okay with you. That's what healthy boundary looks like. Now, the reason we have to do so much boundary work is most of our culture is traumatized. In most of our situations, mom and dad weren't in that coherence. They weren't in the strong, sacred we. They weren't allies. They were just trying to get through life and pay the bills and put food on the table. And all these kids that have all these needs, for a lot of people, sadly, it's like that's a burden. It's stressful. And if you're a parent, firsthand, it's intense. It's a big task. It's the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. And it requires a lot of resource. This is why mom and dad need to be really connected. So the reason we got to do this is most of us didn't have that situation. Mom and dad didn't have enough support. Our culture is disrupted and the school systems separate parents from the wisdom of the parents to attune to their kids. A lot of systems separate that connection, separate that wisdom, and tell parents that they've got to stay over there and that the teachers got it. And God, it's a whole nother topic, so I won't go down the rabbit hole on that. But our culture doesn't really foster a lot of we energy, a lot of empowerment to foster the health of what is required for a soul to really land in a body with lots of confidence and self-esteem. Our systems just don't provide that. It's changing, but it's a cultural thing. Okay. So that lack of attunement and protection and care creates all these like fractures in our biosphere. And those fractures end up sending out signals telling the world that it's okay to treat us this way. So let's say we had big feelings growing up and mom and dad didn't attune to that, or in worse, started to shame or criticize. It creates a fracture in the biosphere, and then your nervous system as a little one gets the message of it's okay to scream and yell at me and shame me when I feel vulnerable and I feel sad or I made a mistake. That experience imprints, oh, this is my level of worth in the world. And then from a really young, undeveloped brain, we make meaning of it. That's what our ego does. It has to make meaning of everything. And then so we move out into adult life, as an example, and we start to attract partners that shame and criticize us. We start to go out in relationships and people just kind of, this happens to a lot of women where men just start to pursue them sexually, and or the girl doesn't actually want to go further, but then the man or the boy, teenager, convinces them to go further, and then they end up, letting them into their sexual temple that's so sacred. Sexual energy is sacred in a way that they didn't actually want it to happen that way. And it's too fast, and then it creates all these, it's a mess in how not having boundaries impacts somebody. And so then we go into adulthood, and then what ends up happening is, with all this information coming in that wasn't really filtered through a strong biosphere, it's like we've now adopted beliefs, how we should be treated. We start to learn based off of, how people treated each other around us as a template of relationship. And then what happens is we go out into the world and we've accepted all these limiting beliefs, like in order to have a happy life, that, ticky-tacky little boxes, that song? We need to buy a house and get married and have kids and have a good paying job. In my generation, it was like $100,000 a year at the top of the game, like good to go. Now, super limiting for a lived experience, wouldn't you say? And then so what happens? You go out in the world with all this debt and start to attract experiences that maybe make you feel not so great. This is what it looks like when you don't have a lot of boundary, is accepting jobs that really aren't valuing you for the essence of what you bring or what you can do or what you could bring. And then it creates a defeat. It's such a painful experience to not have boundary. Now, we really want to have boundary because when we have a strong biosphere, like I want to go into like now in adult life, what does a boundary look like? A boundary is this strong biosphere. You can almost think of it as a membrane that allows things to come up to it before going closer, to be considered. So if we're talking about words, let's say, somebody could share something, and let's say, someone says, Mike, you're an idiot. If I have a strong boundary biosphere, it'll come up to this membrane, and then I'll look at it, and I'll be like, oh, Mike's an idiot. If I have a strong biosphere and boundary, I'll then feel into myself and be like, what's true for me? I'm not an idiot. Do I make mistakes sometimes? Yeah, totally. Doesn't make me an idiot. Aw, what's actually going on? I bet that person's having a hard go. I bet they're feeling insecure about something. Well, I don't need to take that on. And then Mike's an idiot hits the biosphere and then falls down to the ground like a water off a duck's back. It doesn't need to impact my experience because it's not true for me if I have a strong biosphere. That's just one example. Now, in the honor of time, I'm not going to go into many more than that, but a boundary is an experience of knowing how much energy we want to take up that sends a signal out, and that we communicate to others of how we want to be treated, what our yeses and our nos are. And it's this energy field that really commands this experience of respect me because I'm respecting me. It's no one else's job to figure that out. But if we respect ourselves really well, if we get to know what our God-given gifts are and what our nature is and our direction in life and what our mission and our purpose is, and we have a strong relationship to spirit, God, universe, whatever your version is, I hope you have one because it's revolutionary. Just your higher self, whatever it is. That strong connection, your center point, determines what your biosphere is, and it also determines how you're going to accept to be treated. It'll determine how you relate to your thoughts, your body, to your possessions, your things, your home. It'll determine where you decide to work and how you support other people, what products and services you bring to the world. This is revolution. It's everything. If we have that strong biosphere, we actually start to attract more abundance and prosperity because that is our innate desire from life. Life wants us to thrive. When you look at the world, life just consistently expands. When you think about this, any tree you look out at, it started as a seed. A seed just lands in the ground, and then with the energy of sun and a bit of water, this gargantuan thing just emerges, cells just building and building and stacking on each other. And science can't actually fully explain how all of that happens. And that's no different than us, which is absolutely incredible. So life, the reason I'm sharing this, life wants us to grow and evolve and to be more. Now, if we're not experiencing more, it's often because there was a lot of lack of boundary and we were treated poorly, and we have stored information and energy in our body, which is trauma, that's preventing us from stepping into who we're actually here to be. Now, once we start to do boundary work, we start to rebuild our biosphere, our structure. So any of those places where there were fractures, where there was abuse, sexual assault, car accidents, whatever it is, and we start to care about that and move towards people and experiences and environments that are kind and caring, we actually can heal those ruptures and those fractures in the biosphere and send out new signals. Then that new signal says to life, hey, treat this person with respect. When they say no, they mean no. Don't try to take from them. It's like it's clean and clear. And the reason this is so important to learn this is because when we're relating with other people and we have clear boundaries and they have clear boundaries, it actually creates more safety in the field, that everyone's being an adult taking care of themselves, that if somebody doesn't want to be a part of the conversation, they're going to say something. We don't have to figure that out. It actually creates a lot more freedom within the relationship. And then it creates a deeper sense of belonging. And I can almost guarantee you, somewhere inside of you, I'd say we all want that. It's not a person yet that I've met that doesn't actually want this, is a deeper sense of belonging. They want to feel enough, don't you? Don't you want to feel enough? That there's a place where you can just be you? Well, the more clear you are on your boundaries, the more you will attract the places and the people where that can be true. But we have to do the boundary work. If we just let ourselves be in relationships where we're treated poorly, in jobs that we hate, and we don't change that, if we let our thoughts be the thing that we identify with, if we just accept whatever food comes our way and we don't prioritize and move towards, this is just my preference of like organic and creek water and all these things, if we don't treat our vessel well, then other people won't either. And so if we start to treat ourselves well and do the boundary work and start to say, hey, I'm not okay with how you spoke to me there, and we start to bring all these boundaries into place, build out our biosphere, it inspires other people to do the same. So the more we do this as a collective, the more we move in the direction of evolution together to heal the collective trauma, all the dissonance and the fight and the conflict and the you, me, and the battles and we actually start to foster the we. Boundaries moves us in the direction of unified consciousness. It moves in the direction of coherence because it's how we're meant to be. Talk about motivation. Let's just take a breath there. Together. Boundaries will completely change your experience of life because you are meant to be treated sacred. And I'm so sorry that if somewhere along your journey you weren't treated sacred, and it's given you the message that your needs don't matter or that you have to cling to something or someone in order to get your needs met. You can change that. I promise you, you can change it. And when you do, I've seen it with every client I've ever worked with. Once this part is really figured out, once you start to unpack where all this came from, your childhood, your life changes forever. This isn't you just learning new information and tools, being the same you with new tools. This is where you actually can transform into the person you were born to be. As a mature adult responsible for your own experience, inspiring other people to do that for themselves. Now, there's not one person I've talked to so far who has been doing this work that hasn't landed in a place of deeper fulfillment. Who doesn't want to live a life that's more fulfilling? So I really encourage, if this really resonated for you, please shoot me a message in the comments. What came up? What did you realize in this? Maybe you didn't even know you were lacking boundaries, or that it was the thing that's creating a lot of mess or issues in your life, or maybe in your connection with your partner where you just are the yes man or the yes woman and just meet everyone else's needs but your own. If any of those are yours or any of your experience, please, I want to feel you. I'm a relationship coach. I want to hear from you. Go down in the comments, shoot me a message. If you like this and you want more of this, YouTube is a newer platform for me that I am so devoted to in the long term. So if you want more of my future content, go hit subscribe, hit the bell, and to make sure you're getting this information to help you be the best you.